This little thing is already 1 month old, so here's my review of the Quest 2 after 1 month of use. Hello good people, I'm Cass and I'm actually a little late with this video because if you followed me for a while, then you know we've been using the Quest 2 for over a month already since Oculus sent one to us early. There was just a lot going on in the VR industry that took my time, which is only good. But I want to stay consistent with our headset reviews, so I don't want to miss anything, as I think more reviews are always useful. So let's get started, but first, this is your channel for VR info. Consider subscribing if you haven't yet, and now join me beyond reality. This is the Oculus Quest 2, released on October 13, 2020 at $299 US for the 64GB version and $399 US for the 256GB version. This little device has stirred up a lot of things in the VR industry. Good things, but also worrying things. Some of the good things are that it makes VR way more accessible since it's a standalone VR headset that doesn't need a PC to play VR games. It's wireless, so you can play anywhere you want, and the price makes it much more affordable. What surprised most of us was that this new headset is cheaper than its predecessor, the Quest 1, even though a lot of the hardware specifications are improved. But of course, compromises have been made to lower the price, which we'll talk about in this video. But the most worrying thing is that people say Facebook was able to make this device cheaper because they will also sell your data. All fair points, and I will touch on this topic as well today. But if you don't have enough time, timestamps are in the description as always, but it does help us if you watch the entire video. So if you do that, thank you very much. So let's start with the exterior, the design. It's white, the only VR headset that's white, except maybe the PSVR that has some white lines on it, but all of the other ones are darker colors. I do like the color, I think it is pretty, but the biggest con is that it gets dirty fast and it's not easy to clean with Oculus's recommended dry cloth. We have two devices at home and both of them already have something on it, so you gotta be more careful with what you do with this VR headset than any other. This headset is probably the smallest of them all, and the weight is 503 grams, which is about 10% lighter than Quest 1. Less weight is always better as it means less strain on your face and neck, but unfortunately 10% isn't enough to make it more comfortable because of this soft strap that you get out of the box. I think most gamers who want to play longer than 30 minutes will wish for a different solution. There are options out there like the official Elite strap that you can see over here. You can watch my review on it, but be careful with this one as many people have been reporting that the sides can crack. It hasn't happened to us, and currently Oculus has paused shipping the Elite strap while they look into this. But another option that I like to use is the HTC Vive Deluxe audio strap with 3D printed adapters, which is also very comfortable. And as time goes by, I'm sure more third-party accessories will come with more affordable and different straps. For now, I will link both I mentioned in the description below. So for comfort, the headset is not getting any points from me as it's still front heavy, and by having to buy an additional strap, the headset becomes more expensive. But of course, the most exciting and essential part of this review is what's inside of it. So let's talk about its hardware specs and performance. So the headset runs on the newest Qualcomm system on a chip designed for VR and AR, the Snapdragon XR2. It also runs on 6GB of RAM, and when comparing this to Quest 1, it's an excellent upgrade. Not a lot of people expected this upgrade, us neither, and were positively surprised. And it's easy to tell that Quest 2 is faster just by measuring the headset's boot time. Games also run noticeably smoother when compared to Quest 1, plus by now, many developers have also upgraded the specs of their games for Quest 2, so the graphics, and it makes a big difference in a lot of games. Some developers even add additional gameplay elements just for Quest 2, like extra items to explore, or it even goes as far as adding more intricate enemy physics only for the Quest 2. The refresh rate is at the time of doing this review for all games still 72Hz, only an experimental 90Hz mode is available that only works for certain Oculus apps like the home environment and browser. Whatever does work in 90Hz though does look noticeably smoother. I feel that these upgrades are the headset's biggest game changer. In the next sections there are compromises, so let's get into that. Let's talk about the display. It uses a single fast switch LCD while the previous Quest had dual OLED panels. This means when compared to the OLED, the LCD has grayer blacks and different color contrasts. On the OLED, colors are more vibrant, but I feel the LCD screens have better, more realistic contrast levels. Colors will come down to personal preference. Some people dislike the new colors, some others mind it less. I'm with the latter. The biggest pro of the LCD is a better sub-pixel layout, so a better fill factor, which significantly reduces screen door effect. You know that little black ridge you could see in older headsets? That's really hard to notice now, which is excellent news. This display, because of the new resolution of almost 4K, is also crispy clear. Text is readable, and it's the first headset I feel I can finally work in for at least a couple of hours. Unfortunately, this LCD has a limitation, which is more latency response times. It causes some kind of motion blur that is very noticeable when you look at something with high contrast, for example white text on a black background. This isn't really distracting when playing VR games, as you don't notice it as much when you're slaying zombies, and it may get better when we get 90Hz mode indefinitely, but some people might be more sensitive to it. The lenses are not so different, still Fresnels, and they are even the same physical size, so if you have any prescription lens adapters, you could keep using the same ones, which is nice, but yeah, no improvement here on glare, God rays and sweet spots. By the way, I made a separate video where I deep dive into the display, so if you're interested in more info and thoughts on this, then check that one out, the link is below. But I want to move on to one of the most significant changes to this headset, the IPD's adjustment. Your IPD is the distance in millimeters between the pupils of your eyes, and if set correctly, what you see in the headset is sharp. If not correctly, the image is blurry and can cause motion sickness or headache. On Quest 2, you can set 3 fixed IPD settings by moving the lenses with your hand. My IPD is 59mm and Cherry's IPD is 66.5. For me, setting 1 is clear and great. For Cherry, she has some trouble deciding between 2 and 3. So for people who are in between settings, you might have some trouble. However, people have found out you can move the lenses between 2 settings if you move it really slowly, which does help a bit, but the lenses are not made for that, so it could not be easy. So if your IPD is not within range, make sure to try out the headset first before buying, as this is important for the best VR experience. Then unfortunately there is one more con here. If you set the lenses to setting 3, so the most outward one, then you will also see the edges of the display, which means you will have less field of view than the other settings. While I'm glad Oculus added an IPD adjustment, this part is definitely a compromise. Speaking about FOV, let's touch on that now too. FOV is also one of those things very personal, as it's different per face shape, but for me, FOV is a bit smaller, about 3 degrees less in horizontal and vertical, at least compared to the Quest 1. This isn't by a lot, and it's tough to see the difference, so it doesn't bother me. But if you're sensitive to this and you're on setting 3, then it might be a deal breaker. As for tracking, the headset uses 4 sensors to give you 6 degrees of freedom movement with inside-out tracking. This means moving like you would in real life without the need for any external sensors, just like Quest 1, HP Reverb and the Vive Cosmos. They did slightly move the sensors on the Quest 2 a little more to the sides. Maybe this helps a little with better tracking. However, I haven't noticed much difference. The tracking is about the same, and the Oculus has one of the best inside-out tracking software, where even when the controllers move out of the sensor's range, it is still able to use artificial intelligence to predict where your hands are. It's challenging to eliminate tracking loss with inside-out tracking completely, so occasionally you will see your controllers drift or even fly away from you. Then just make sure that the sensors can see the controllers again and you should be fine. But for the most part, tracking is fantastic. You can play any game, even PC VR games, without trouble. Since we're talking about controllers already, this third version of the touch controllers are heavier, bulkier, but Oculus did solve a couple of problems that people had with previous touch controllers, the version 2s. For example, the battery cover kept coming off, which doesn't happen anymore. There is also now more space for your thumb to rest, and it's a bigger controller, so it's much better for people with bigger hands. Ergonomic wise, I prefer the previous controllers, but these new ones suffice for sure. Maybe that's just because I have smaller hands. Unfortunately, the previous ones do not work with the new headset. The controller battery life is also very good. I'm still using these AA batteries that came with the headset, and I think they have about 2400 mAh, and it's still not empty. I do recommend getting 2 pairs of rechargeable batteries so you can always switch them up whenever you need them. As for battery life of the Quest 2 headset itself, I can get about 2 to 2.5 hours of playtime at a full charge. Most of the time though, it is near 2 hours most of the time. Bringing it back to full charge is also around 2.5 hours with the provided USB-C cable. Unfortunately, this charging cable that came in the box is very short, so you cannot use it to charge while playing games because it's just too short. But the Oculus Link cable, which I have right here, is long enough for you to charge and play if you plug it into a wall plug, which is what I sometimes do. If you use the Oculus Link cable in your PC, then it does charge and extends battery life a little, but the charge is too slow and it still drains your battery. So battery life is not the best, and you most likely will need a power bank solution like the Elite battery strap, unless you play no more than 2 hours each time. The headset comes with onboard speakers in the strap and microphones at the bottom. It also comes with one 3.5mm audio jack. Positional audio is built directly in the speakers, and that works well. The speakers are not the best audio you will hear though, so most of the time you may want to plug in your own headphones, which is what I do when I play Beat Saber, for example. And the microphone, well, is just okay. Not the best, but you can judge yourself. This is an unedited recording with the Oculus Quest 2 microphone. What do you think about the audio? Put it below in the comments, and don't forget to leave this video a like if you found it helpful so far. Okay, so you may know that the Rift S will be discontinued in early 2021, and Facebook will no longer pursue PC-only hardware. So moving on, the focus for Facebook is the Quest line standalone headsets that you can also use to play PC VR games. So the Quest 2 is essentially a hybrid headset. Currently there are 2 suitable methods to play PC VR games, with the Oculus Link USB-C cable and wirelessly with Virtual Desktop. Keep in mind that Virtual Desktop requires you to sideload and a good 5 GHz Wi-Fi connection, so it may not work for everyone. Oculus Link, which has gotten better now because the XR2 chip can handle higher video bit rates. This means way less compression artifacts, and it looks very good now. At the time of making this video, Oculus Link is in beta and does have some some stability issues, but will move out of beta later, and I think when that happens, Link will be a great option for PC VR gaming. For both methods, I made how-to videos with tips on making it work, which I will link below, but overall the PC VR experience is great. This hybrid ability is definitely one of the unique selling points of the Quest 2. Of course, my review videos cannot miss this part for those who wear those sexy glasses. Jerry wears glasses too, and I always use her glasses for this. They are medium sized and they fit in there nicely. Do make sure to use the glasses spacer to make a bit more room, and please make sure that your glasses are not touching the lenses and scratching it, because that would be a shame. To be completely safe, I always recommend getting prescription lens adapters. I will link the one Cherry uses below. So there's one question that I repeatedly get, is whether you should get the 64 or 256GB storage version. So here are the install sizes of some of the top selling games. Most of these games have already been updated for Quest 2, and well, I don't think it's a huge difference from previous measures on Quest 1, except maybe for Saints and Sinners. But it could be that newer games will get bigger if they are made only for Quest 2, but still, if you're not going to storage movies and plan on actually finishing games and then deleting them after, games are not very long right now anyway, then 64GB is enough, I think. Do keep in mind that effectively with 64GB you get around 50, because the OS also takes up some space. However, if you play many games that you just want to jump into once a while, so games that you can't really finish like Population 1, Beat Saber or Onwards, or maybe you just tend to move on to different games before finishing them, then I would recommend getting the 256GB, as it's not easy to transfer save files. As for me, I did transition to this 256GB version. Last but definitely not least, we need to talk about the Facebook requirements. If you buy this headset, you will need to connect a Facebook account to it. Facebook is about collecting data, and they don't have a good reputation on data privacy, so keep that in mind if you use this headset. If you don't want to share anything with Facebook, the only option you would have is not to buy a Facebook headset. Whether this is a problem for you is up to you. I'm a tester, so I cannot stop using it, and frankly I don't want to, because I love the technology. So if you're like me, then I recommend keeping educated on this subject, so we can at least find ways to protect our data as much as possible. Currently, not much has happened yet to our data, and Facebook's privacy policies have only begun to surface, so it is interesting. So on this channel, I will always keep you up to date if something happens. Concluding, I think the Oculus Quest 2 is currently the best value VR headset for its price. There are compromises, but the pros outweigh the cons here. Of course, there's also just no competition at all on the market, unfortunately. It is the only affordable headset that you can use for both standalone VR experiences and PC VR games. And both ways to play work well. Plus, its specs come so close to headsets that are much pricier. So aside from the Facebook thing, it's hard to not recommend the Quest 2. And well, it is currently my go-to headset for most VR things, because it's just so easy to pick it up. But would I recommend getting the Quest 2 if you have a VR-ready PC? I think this depends on how much you use your headset outside of your PC. If you want to take your headset with you to other rooms or friends a lot, then the Quest 2 is the best option. But if you only use it for PC VR, then going for a PC VR headset is usually better, as it will always have better games and graphics, since you will have the power of your PC powering it. By the way, next on the channel we'll be reviewing the HP Reverb G2 and comparing it to the Quest 2. It's coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. But that's it for now. I hope I was able to explain all the pros and cons in this video, so you can decide whether you want it or not. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Quest 2, and if you don't have it yet, are you going to get it? If not, why not? Thanks for watching, and if you got some time left, why not support us by watching more videos? I hope to see you in the next. Stay healthy, and a special thanks goes to all our champions, especially these patrons down below. And as always, VR on.